Hey Alexis, okay, I've got your work up here. I was just reading your writing. After reading more about kerning and optical relationships, I realized I might need to revisit the drawing board for this one and try my best to keep that in mind as I tried to just have equal spacing. Equal spacing is we're beyond that now. Equal spacing was what we called to be considered normal letter spacing or equal letter spacing, and that was the very first iteration of the banana assignment. So at this point, you should really be striving to adjust your letter spacing based on the formula for kerning that I have given you guys during week one, and also will share in your notes for this assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and open your submission, and here it is right here. Now, before I do this, I just want to mention a couple of things. I sent an email this morning, and I ran some statistics, and I kind of wanted to take a look at a comparison between the students who are regularly reviewing the course announcements and the videos and those who aren't. And I kind of compared that to grading thus far for the class. And it is very, very obvious and very apparent that students that are going into the course announcements and reviewing the announcements and the videos that are located in those announcements are performing at a much, much higher level than students that aren't watching those videos. So I bring this up. If you're not watching those videos, you want to get in there. They could theoretically be the difference between a low grade and a very, very high grade in the class. Let me show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to go over to the announcements area right here. And in the announcements, since week one, we've got our housekeeping announcements, right? Those are pretty important. But these four announcements, and every week I post new announcements, not only welcome to the week, but also supplemental announcements with tips and tricks for completing the assignment. So my recommendation is to check this announcements area at least 2-3 times a week, and just to be sure you get in here and take a look at all of the resources in these announcements. Some of them are long. There's plenty of links, outside resources, and there's several videos in. For example, this Welcome to Week 2 announcement has 4 videos in it, and each one is specifically important as to you representing the importance of spacing in typography. There is a video tutorial on here specifically on how to kern, fire, and ice. Now I've taken the document out of that video, and I've opened it here so we can use it to compare your work with what I would consider to be perfect kerned and spaced example right here. I really took my time on this one to make it as perfect as possible. So let's go ahead and take a look. Now we can clearly see the first thing. I'm going to use the top of this document as a straight edge. So as we can see, I placed the straight edge on the baseline on the right side of the phrase, and we can see that the left side rises way above. So the baseline isn't level. The mean line seems to be closer to level, but again, it's not perfectly level. And the cap line, as we can see, goes up left to right. So it is not level either. So baseline, mean line, cap line are not level. You'll never get good. That's why all of your letters look like they're different sizes. Until we get that baseline, mean line, cap line perfectly level, it's just impossible. It's like a shot in the dark. It's just a pure game of chance trying to get your placement and scale correct. Okay, so as we can see, there is no real kerning here in your example. Basically, you've got really uneven spaces between your letter forms, and a lot of them, like fire, almost appears to be 4 separate letters. You're so wide here. And is a little bit better, and ice is a little bit better, but you really want to follow those rules of kerning as presented. If you have any questions on those or you need any clarification, please let me know. I'll be glad to provide in that regard. At any rate, so you would definitely want to watch your letter spacing and your word spacing too. Now these open counters present, remember from week one, remember one of the tips was to kern letters closer, curved letters that have open counters, and the reason is because you want to accommodate for that extra surface area of the open counter. So this area right here has got this open counter on the lowercase e, this open counter on the lowercase a. So this area here has got much more surface area than this area here. That's why it looks like it's a word. It looks like there should be a pause here. So as we can see, this almost reads like fire and ice, whereas this reads boom, fire and ice. You don't really even have to enunciate it. It just registers as fire and ice. And that's because of the optimal spacing, word spacing and letter spacing. Let's take a look at your craft. I think the craft can be improved. Your letter forms, take a look at your serifs. These are not bracketed serifs that you're showing here. That's a 90 degree right there. So is that. And so are these. So these aren't represented bracketed serifs. These are representing 90 degree angle serifs. You want to be as particularly efficient and excuse me, as I was saying, you want to be as particularly accurate and efficient in the representation of your letters as possible. We want to show overshoot. Don't forget overshoot. Overshoot is covered in week 2 lecture. You want to show overshoot on the lowercase letters, both baseline and mean line. You want to show overshoot on the straight letter forms, specifically the serifs associated with the baseline and the mean line and the cap line. So you definitely want to show overshoot there, okay? The final comment, I think, is probably the most obvious, but you're not using an uppercase I on ice. That was covered in one of the videos too, and that document does have an uppercase I for ice. So, okay, so those are my recommendations moving into your final submission for week 2, fire and ice, which is due this Sunday. If you have any questions, or if I can provide any further clarification, please let me know. But I would like to see those recommendations reflected and shown in your final submission for the fire and ice assignment. Okay, thank you very much.